Flank left. Drones sweep right. Eyes on the towers. Velari, cover the ridge. Orders came quick. Tight. Perfect. He was born for this moment. His cyber legs absorbed shock. He rolled, jumped, even sprinted across burning metal. The cadets around him fought with fury. They were more than soldiers now. They were his family. And he was theirs, deep behind the lines. They'd reached the beacon tower. Guarded. Heavy resistance. Velari was injured, plasma burn across her ribs. She limped forward. "We can't reach the core," someone yelled. Jace scanned the area. "Yes, we can." He looked at the cliff beside them. Too high, too narrow, too risky. "I'll climb," he said. Velari grabbed his arm. "Your legs won't make it." He looked at her. "Then I'll use my hands." He climbed. Through fire. Through screams. Metal burning under his fingers. No safety ropes. No support. Just faith. Just will. Every meter higher, his muscles screamed. But he climbed. Until he reached the top. He placed the charge on the beacon core. Then whispered. For every voice that was never heard. For every soul that was mocked. For every dream that was called weak. And he jumped. The explosion lit the sky. Bright. Blinding. The beacon shattered. Enemy forces lost connection. Chaos rippled through their ranks. Cadets charged with renewed fury. And the academy held the line. Hours later, the battlefield was silent again. Jace lay in the dust, covered in ash, alive. His eyes opened slowly. First thing he saw, Velari, kneeling beside him. Tears on her face. "You came back," she whispered. He smiled. "Told you I would." She leaned in, kissed his forehead, held his hand, never let go. Days later, at the academy courtyard, a ceremony, not for victory, for courage. Medals were passed, honors given. But the real moment was when the High Commander stepped forward, handed Jace a new badge, and said, "From this day forward, you are not just a cadet. You are a leader of this generation. Your strength is not in your limbs. It is in your soul." Thunderous applause. Even the stars seemed to shine brighter. That night, Jace and Velari sat under the sky again. Same bench, same stars, different people, changed forever. She looked at him. "I never believed a human could change everything." He looked at her. "You didn't have to. I just needed to believe in myself." She smiled, then leaned her head on his shoulder. "You taught me that real warriors don't always stand tall," she said. "No," he whispered. "Sometimes they rise from the floor." And together, they watched the stars, in silence, in peace, in strength. The betrayal and the firestorm. They thought it was just another training day, until the sky caught fire and trust shattered like glass. The sun was just rising when the sirens started. Not the training sirens. Not a drill. Real ones. Sharp, fast, full of warning. Jace jolted awake in his bunk. His room shook slightly. Above him, red lights blinked across the ceiling. On his screen, a single word flashed. "Breach detected. Zone 7 perimeter. Unknown forces inbound." Within seconds, the academy was in chaos. Cadets running. Officers shouting. Ships launching. Outside, the sky was filled with smoke. Dark shapes moved over the cliffs beyond the academy. Raiders, rebels, maybe even mercenaries. No one was sure. But they weren't here to negotiate. They came armed. And they came fast. The academy defense systems activated, but someone had disabled the early warning grid. It wasn't an accident. It was sabotage. Instructor Hyler's voice crackled over the comm. "This is not a simulation. Repeat, this is a real hostile assault. All cadets report to battle positions. Protect the command center and medical bay." Jace grabbed his gear, custom gloves, scanner visor, a small pulse pistol, and rolled out of the room in his floating chair. But he didn't head to the battle line. Not yet. His first thought wasn't orders. His first thought was Valeri. Elsewhere, in the west courtyard, Valeri fought like lightning. Her twin blades flashed through the air, slicing down attackers in smooth, perfect movements. She had no fear, only focus. But she was outnumbered, and she didn't know yet that someone behind her wasn't who they claimed to be. Behind the smoke, a cadet she trusted raised a rifle, not to help her, but to shoot her in the back. At that moment, Jace arrived. He didn't yell. He didn't panic. He aimed his pulse pistol from 50 meters away. One clean shot. The traitor dropped the rifle, arm fried by a direct hit. Valeri spun around, stunned. He was going to. "I know," Jace said, rolling forward through smoke. "How did you?" "I don't miss much." They stood back to back, surrounded. More enemies approached, moving through the courtyard ruins. Jace reloaded. Valeri's blades dripped plasma. "You should have gone to the command center," she said. "You should have waited for me," he replied. "I'm not your responsibility." "Maybe not," he said, "but you're my reason." Her eyes widened, just for a moment. Then the attackers charged. The fight was brutal. Jace used his floating chair to weave around cover, firing short bursts with his pistol, guiding drones overhead to mark enemies. Valeri moved like a windstorm, cutting down threats before they could aim. But a grenade landed between them. No time to run. Jace slammed his chair forward and grabbed Valeri's wrist. Then he shielded her with his body. The blast hit. Dust filled the air. His chair flew backward, sparks bursting. He hit the wall hard. Valeri sat up, blood on her arm, shocked. "Jace." She ran to him. His chest plate was cracked. His chair was broken. His legs, sparking badly. But he was alive. Barely. He smiled weakly. "Told you. Stubborn." Reinforcements finally arrived. Enemy forces pulled back. The academy defenses kicked in. But the damage was done. Half the sector was burned. Several cadets wounded. And Jace. Jace was taken to the medbay, unconscious. Hours later, Valeri sat beside his bed. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful. "Idiot," she whispered. "You should have let me get hit." A voice behind her spoke. He never would. Instructor Hyler stood there, arms crossed. "That's not who he is." Valeri turned. "I thought I was the strongest," she said quietly. Hyler shook his head. "You are. But strength doesn't always look like a blade. Sometimes, it looks like a broken man who keeps standing when he shouldn't." When Jace finally woke up, his vision was blurry. But he saw her first, sitting beside him, holding his hand. No armor, no shield, just her. "Valeri." "I'm still here," she said. He smiled. "Good. I was worried I'd wake up and you'd be gone." Never again. Later that night, they sat outside under the stars. Again. This time, both changed. Valeri leaned her head lightly against his shoulder. "You saved me," she whispered. "You saved me first," he replied. "I hated you once. I remember. Now I'm scared of losing you." Jace didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Then don't let go." She didn't. A challenge too far. When pride burns too bright, it turns to anger. And when anger blinds you, you challenge someone you shouldn't. Valeri stood at the center of the combat arena, her fists clenched, her eyes burning. The crowd of cadets circled the edges of the open floor, buzzing with tension. Everyone knew something was about to explode. No drills today. No training exercises. This was personal. And it started with 6 words. "I challenged the human to a duel." 5 minutes earlier, cadets gathered for weekly performance updates, Results of trials, missions, and tactical rankings flashed across the main hall screen. Everyone was watching the name at the top. Not Valari, but Jace Mora. Again. First in tactics. First in leadership. Third in marksmanship. Even his hand-to-hand combat rating, done through simulation AI, was rising fast. A few muttered in surprise. Some clapped. Others didn't understand how it was possible. But Valari understood, and it stung. Not because she hated him, not anymore, but because he had done something no one else had. He had surpassed her, and for someone like her, raised to be the best, that truth felt like a thorn in the heart. As the meeting ended, Valari stepped forward, her voice calm but cold. "I challenge the human to a duel," she said aloud. Gasps echoed through the hall. Jace, who had been silently watching from the back in his floating chair, looked up slowly. His face didn't show surprise, only stillness. "Why?" he asked. "To settle what's unclear," she replied. "No tools, no drones, no simulations, only skill." "I don't fight for pride," he said quietly. "And I don't challenge cowards," she shot back. That made the room go silent. Jace stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Fine." The arena. An hour later. The rules were set. No weapons. No floating chair. Jace would wear his light cybernetic legs. Basic models, not the upgraded war-grade ones. No drones. No enhancements. Just the two of them. The floor was a flat circle of smooth stone, sensors along the edge to register hits and movements. Once one fighter was pinned or knocked off the platform, the match would end. The cadets stood on all sides, quiet now, curious, unsure who to root for. Even the instructors watched from the balcony above. Jace stepped onto the platform slowly. His cyber legs clicked with every step. They weren't perfect. Every movement took effort. Every step looked stiff. But he didn't stumble. Valari was already waiting, her form tall, graceful, confident. She had trained since childhood in the blade arts and unarmed combat. She had fought on 3 worlds, earned medals before her 16th year. She was a warrior by blood. He was a soldier by pain. The bell rang, and the fight began. First movement. Valari strikes. She came fast, aiming a sweeping leg toward his side. Jace blocked, barely. She followed with a shoulder shove, strong and sudden. Jace stepped back, knees trembling slightly from the impact. The crowd whispered, but Jace didn't fall. Second round. Jace counters. He waited, timed her next move. When she lunged again, he shifted his body sideways, not fast, but timed perfectly, and used her momentum against her. She stumbled slightly. Just slightly. But that was enough for him to tap her shoulder. Point scored. Gasps again. Her eyes widened. Beyond limbs, beyond limits. They said he would never lead. They said he was too broken, too slow, too weak. Now the entire academy waited for his command. It began in silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence before a storm. The kind of silence that wrapped around bones and made the air feel heavy. Outside the academy walls, the enemy gathered, twice as many as before. They had come to finish what they started. The sabotage had been only the beginning. This was the invasion. If they broke through the outer defenses, nothing would stop them from destroying everything the academy had built. The cadets, the instructors, the legacy. The commanders met urgently. One voice rose above the rest. "We need a field commander on the ground. Someone who knows the terrain. Someone who's been in it." They all turned toward the medical wing. Toward the human. Toward Jace Mora. Inside the medbay. Jace sat up on the edge of the bed. His legs were different now. New. Sleek. Upgraded. But they still didn't work like normal legs. They still needed focus. Balance. Pain. But Jace didn't complain. He adjusted his gloves, flexed his fingers, and looked at the officers calmly. "What do you want me to do?" 2 hours later, the plan was made. The cadets would split into 4 teams. Jace would lead the central squad, through the ruins, across the burning field, into enemy territory. His mission: destroy the enemy command beacon before it could link to the orbital fleet. Failure meant total defeat. Success meant saving the planet. In the final prep room, Jace stood in full gear. No chair, no wires, just him, his metal legs locked in place. A modified support brace ran up his spine, attached to a neural node in the back of his skull. Every step hurt, but he moved anyway. Vaylari entered, fully armored, blades crossed on her back. She walked up to him slowly. No words, just a look. Deep, powerful. Then she reached up, gently touched the side of his face. "Don't be a hero," she whispered. "Too late," he replied. She smiled sadly. "Just come back. Always." The final march began. Through smoke, through ash, through broken gates and shattered steel. His squad followed him, not just because he was in command, but because they believed. Even those who once laughed now walked behind him in silence. He had earned their respect, not by force, but by heart. The final battle hit fast. Enemy units swarmed from the cliffs, weapons blazing. Jace's voice rang through the comms. Jace disabled the last drone with a precision shock pulse, then lowered his chair behind a broken wall of stone. The simulation froze. Mission complete. Survival, 100%. Tactical rating, 98.2%. Damage taken, minimal. The doors opened. Jace floated out slowly, covered in sweat, his breathing steady. He looked tired, but not broken. "Ranked first," the system announced. Gasps, silence, then quiet murmurs. But Jace didn't look at them. He floated past the cadets, not waiting for applause or approval. He had nothing to prove to them, but they were starting to realize. Maybe they had something to prove to him. That night, Vaylari stood outside the training hall, staring at the dark screen. The words still echoed in her head. Ranked first. She had never been second. She had always been the best. Her tribe expected nothing less. Her ancestors were warriors. Her bloodline proud. And now, a human, one who couldn't even walk, had outranked her. It didn't make sense. Or maybe it did. Inside Jace's quarters, he was repairing a damaged drone, his hands fast, precise. His tools clicked softly in the quiet room. Then the door slid open. Vaylari stepped inside. Jace looked up, said nothing. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she asked, quietly, "Why do you do this?" He blinked. "What? You could go home. You don't belong here. You don't have to prove anything." Jace stared at her, then looked down at his drone. "I used to walk," he said. "Used to run, jump, fight. But even back then, people like you didn't see us, didn't see me." He put the tool down. "I'm not here for a medal, or to prove anything to you." He leaned back. "I'm here because war doesn't care who can walk and who can't. War doesn't ask. It just comes. And when it does, I want to be ready, even if I have to crawl." Vaylari felt something twist in her chest. Not pity, not anger, something else. But she turned and walked away before she could name it. Next morning, the academy announced a team trial. 4-member squads, the instructor said. Randomized. Names appeared on the board. Vaylari, Jace, 2 other cadets. Someone laughed. This should be fun. Vaylari didn't laugh. And Jace, he just nodded. In the field, the trial was brutal. Steep terrain, enemy bots, live fire. Early into the mission, the 2 other cadets panicked and ran, leaving Jace and Vaylari alone. "We'll fail now," Vaylari said, angry. "No," Jace replied. "We won't." He guided her through the rocks, calling shots, giving signals. They worked together, awkward at first, then smooth. His chair moved like a snake through tight spaces. Her blades struck with precision. They cleared the zone. Mission complete. That night, for the first time, Jace and Valerie sat at the same table in the mess hall. No one spoke to them, but everyone watched. Valerie glanced at him and said, quietly, "You surprised me." Jace didn't smile. He just nodded. "I get that a lot." Blood in the sand, they had trained for war, but none of them were ready for this. The emergency siren blared through the academy halls, loud, sharp, real. This wasn't a drill. The laugh that started it all, the ship landed with a loud hiss, steam rising from the vents as the docking clamps locked in place. Dozens of young alien cadets stood in perfect formation at the edge of the academy grounds, their armor polished, faces proud, eyes full of judgment. They were the best, warriors from across galaxies, brought to one place to learn, train, and dominate. They came from noble bloodlines, born with strength and speed. Every year, new hopefuls were brought in, tested, and sorted. But this year, something different stepped off the ramp. A floating chair rolled out, silent and smooth. It wasn't a mistake. In the chair sat a human male, tall, lean, and calm. His legs didn't move. They were covered with dark synth leather, bent at the knees and resting quietly. He wore no armor, just simple training gear and a badge on his chest. Earthling, Jace Mora. The silence broke. Soft snickers turned into open laughter. "Is this a joke?" one of the alien recruits said aloud. A tall girl with silver scales on her cheeks and a long blade on her back. Her name was Valerie. She was the top-ranked cadet, undefeated in drills, sharp with words, sharper with her fists. Jace's eyes didn't move. He looked forward. "What will he fight with?" another alien muttered. "His chair. Maybe we should build him a ramp into battle." Someone added, and the laughter spread. Valerie walked forward and stood in front of Jace's chair. Her golden eyes narrowed, and her smirk widened. "You're not in the wrong place, cripple," she asked, tilting her head. "This isn't a hospital." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Jace finally looked up at her. His eyes weren't angry. They were calm, distant, like someone who had seen things no one else had, like he was already somewhere far away. "You're right," he said softly. "This isn't a hospital." He turned his chair and floated forward, past her, toward the assembly point. For a moment, Valerie was caught off guard. She watched him go, then scoffed and turned to the others. "Maybe he's here to teach us how to crawl," she joked. But the instructor at the front didn't laugh. The first day of training began with harsh drills, sprints through burning sand, obstacle climbing, balance tests. Jace couldn't participate in most of it. His name was marked as unfit on several activities. Every time he sat on the side, the alien cadets whispered, but he watched everything. He watched their mistakes, their timing, their strength. He took notes on a tiny screen, his fingers fast and focused. When they returned to the barracks, sweating and sore, he was already there, reading, studying, building something from spare parts in the corner. "He's useless," one cadet whispered. "Then why is the commander letting him stay?" another asked. Valerie didn't care. She didn't believe in pity. Weakness had no place in war. But late at night, after lights out, she saw something strange. Jace wasn't sleeping. He had removed the lower half of his legs, metallic prosthetics fused to his nerves. He was adjusting them with tools, tightening screws, adjusting small chips. Then he pulled himself onto the floor with his arms and began doing push-ups. Slow, painful push-ups. 50, then 100. Then handstands, balancing on his arms. Then sit-ups with added weight. He moved like a machine, sweat pouring down, breath steady. Valerie watched from the shadows, hidden. She said nothing, But something in her shifted. Not much. Just a flicker of curiosity. On day 3, the cadets were introduced to the combat simulator. A massive room filled with holographic enemies, firestorms, random gravity, surprise attacks. A real battlefield, but safe enough for training. Today's goal, the instructor said, is survival. You will each enter alone. Survive as long as you can. The top cadets stepped in one by one. Valerie lasted 12 minutes. Impressive. Her strikes were sharp, and her instincts perfect. She exited with a smirk and stood proudly. Then it was Jace's turn. The instructor raised a brow. You sure about this, human? Jace nodded. Yes. He entered the simulator, floating in his chair. Everyone expected him to die in seconds. But minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. Inside, Jace didn't move like the others. He didn't chase enemies. He used drones he built himself. Tiny flying scouts that tracked enemy movement. He set traps using sound and heat signatures. He calculated patterns and lured the enemies into crossfire. He adapted. Outside, the cadets stared at the screen in silence. Jace made it to the 20-minute mark. Then 30. When he finally exited, dripping with sweat and covered in dust, he didn't say a word. Valerie stood near the entrance, hands behind her back, unsure for the first time in a long time. Jace raised an eyebrow. You here to duel me again? He asked. She didn't smile. Not yet. No, just watching. He turned back to his drills. People don't usually watch, he said. I know, she replied. A pause. You ever get tired? She asked. He stopped. Yes, he said. But I move anyway. She walked closer. I don't think I've ever had to try that hard, she said. Things always came easy for me. Jace nodded. Then maybe you've never really grown. She didn't get angry. She sat down on the bench near him, watched him struggle again through the next set of steps. You know, she said quietly, when I first saw you, I thought you were broken. I am, he replied. She looked up. He was facing away, still walking. But broken things can still be sharp, he added. Or strong, she said. Or dangerous, he agreed. After training, they sat near the edge of the barracks yard. Night had fallen. Stars shimmered above in the alien sky. Valerie handed him a small container, fruit from her homeworld. Bitter and bright red. Warriors ate it after long fights to recover. He bit into it. His face twisted. It's awful, he muttered. She laughed. It's tradition. Your traditions are cruel. You survived the arena. You'll survive this too. A moment passed. Quiet. Then she asked, what happened to you before this place? He looked down at the fruit in his hand, then up at the stars. I led a mission on a mining colony, he said. Routine patrol. Then rebels hit it. Lots of civilians. Kids. He paused. I covered them. Took a plasma shot through the spine. Legs never worked again. Valerie didn't speak. He continued. They wanted to send me home, give me a medal and a pension. But you came here instead. Because medals don't help in the next fight. She looked at him, really looked. You're not just strong, she whispered. You're stubborn. He smirked. That too. Days passed. They trained together. Not as rivals now, as something closer. Valerie helped Jace improve his balance, taught him alien combat techniques adapted for his limited mobility. In return, Jace taught her human tactics, traps, patience, mental games. They sparred, sweated, sometimes bulled, and slowly, trusted. But not everyone liked it. Whispers returned. This time, not about weakness, but about favoritism, jealousy. Some said Valerie was going soft. Some said Jace was manipulating her. Others said worse. They didn't care. Until one day, A senior cadet named Kareth confronted Jace in the hallway. Tall, wide, cruel. "Think you're special now, chairboy," he growled. Jace didn't stop walking. "Go away." Kareth blocked him. "Heard you've got Valari wrapped around your useless metal legs." Jace looked up, calm. "You want to hit me?" he asked. "Do it." Kareth raised a fist. Before it landed, Valari's hand caught his wrist. Hard. The sound of bones grinding echoed. "Touch him," she said coldly, "and I'll break every bone in your arm." Kareth backed away. Jace said nothing. But later, when they were alone, "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes," she replied. "I did." That night, they stood under the training dome lights, alone. Again. Valari looked at him. Really looked. "I used to think strength was only in the body," she said. "And now?" Jace asked. "Now I think." She paused. "Maybe it lives in the heart." He stepped closer. "I don't know what this is between us," she said. "Me neither," he replied. Then he added softly, "But I know it's not nothing." They didn't touch, didn't kiss, didn't need to. The way they looked at each other said enough. No simulation, no controlled test. This was a live disaster. A transport ship carrying new cadets had crashed on the far side of the Academy's training desert. Unstable plasma cells on board were leaking. If they exploded, the entire sector would burn. The commanders called for an evacuation team. But there wasn't enough time to organize the elite squads. So they looked at the training roster. "Send the nearest cadets," the officer barked. "I don't care if they're rookies. Get those people out." On that list was Valari. And right behind her name, Jace Mora. 5 minutes later, the shuttle doors opened, blasting them with dry wind and blinding sand. The heat was brutal, waves of it rising from the cracked ground. Flames licked the sky in the distance, black smoke rising like a signal of death. Jace rolled off the ramp in his floating chair, followed by Valari and 3 other cadets. "The ship's hull is melting," one cadet said, scanning his visor. "We have less than 10 minutes before it goes critical." "Rescue the survivors," Valari ordered. "Then fall back to the extraction point." No one questioned her. Not anymore. Not after last time. As they reached the wreckage, Jace spotted the crash site first. Broken metal, flickering sparks, smoke everywhere. Bodies were scattered near the ship's side, some moving, others too still. Without waiting, Jace moved forward. "Wait," one cadet yelled. That area could collapse. But Jace didn't stop. He scanned quickly. "There's someone trapped under that beam. She's alive." The others hesitated. Not Valari. She ran beside him. Together, they found the trapped cadet, a young alien girl with bleeding arms, pinned under a massive support bar. "She can't breathe," Valari said. "Then we move it," Jace replied. Valari blinked. "You're in a chair." Jace's eyes met hers. "And you've got arms. Let's use both." Without another word, Valari took one end of the beam while Jace used a mechanical arm extension from his chair. They lifted. The girl screamed in pain, but she was free. Valari picked her up and carried her back. Jace stayed. "What are you doing?" Valari shouted over the comm. "There are more." Inside the wreckage, the heat was unbearable. Metal groaned, fire licked the air, and walls cracked around him. But Jace kept going. His chair scraped the ground, sparks flying as he forced it through tight corridors. He used scanners to locate life forms, found another cadet unconscious, dragged him out with a grappling tool. His skin burned. Sweat ran down his face. But he didn't stop. He never stopped. Outside, Valari paced, cradling the rescued cadet. "He's not coming out," someone said. "He's insane," another whispered. "He's going to die." But Valari was quiet. She stared at the smoke. Then a shadow appeared. Jace. His face was covered in soot, arms shaking, but he was pulling a third body behind him, a larger alien male, unconscious and bleeding. With the last ounce of strength, Jace dragged him out and collapsed in the sand. Vaylari rushed to his side. "You fool," she whispered. He coughed, smiled weakly. "Didn't want to leave anyone." Later, at the Academy medbay. The injured cadets were safe. The explosion happened minutes after extraction. If Jace hadn't gone in, 3 would have died. Instructors called him reckless. Others called him a hero. But Jace didn't want either label. He just wanted sleep. In the mess hall, for the first time, when Jace entered, the room didn't go silent because of mockery. It went silent out of respect. Some cadets nodded. Others moved so he could pass. Jace didn't react. But he noticed Vaylari sitting alone at a table. He rolled over, set his tray down, and sat beside her. She didn't speak for a moment. Then said, "I thought you were insane." Jace replied, "I probably am." She almost smiled. Then her expression turned serious. "Why did you go back in?" Jace looked at his hands. "Because I was once the one trapped under a burning ship, and someone came back for me." Flashback, years ago. A war zone. Jace, whole with legs and uniform, sprinted across a battlefield, plasma bolts flying all around. He jumped over a barrier, grabbed a crying child, and shielded her with his body. Then the explosion came. When he woke up, he was in a medical pod. Legs gone. Life changed. He had saved the child, but lost everything else. Present moment. Jace shook off the memory. Vaylari washed him. Then said softly, "You saved me too." Jace raised an eyebrow. "You weren't in that ship." "Not there," she said, "but here." She touched her chest. "You showed me what real strength is." Jace blinked, surprised. "You'll make a terrible warrior," she said with a smirk, "but a great leader." He laughed, just a little. The instructor stared at the results. "Ranked second overall," he muttered. Vaylari clenched her fists. That night, in the mess hall, Jace sat alone with his meal pack. Protein gel and recycled water. Simple, quiet. Vaylari approached, her steps firm. The room fell silent. "How did you do that?" she asked. Jace looked up. "Do what?" "Beat my score." He gave a small shrug. "I've seen real war. The simulator doesn't scare me." "You're lying." "No. You didn't even stand." "I didn't need to." Vaylari narrowed her eyes. "This isn't over." "I know," Jace said. "It's just starting." Later that night, Jace sat in his room, his legs off again. He stared at a photo on the wall. Him in full combat gear, years ago, with a little girl sitting on his shoulders. She was smiling. He wasn't. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was the instructor. "You were in the siege of Siren 4, weren't you?" he asked. Jace nodded. "They said you saved 30 people, carried 2 on your back, took a plasma blast to the spine." Jace said nothing. "Why come here?" Jace looked at the photo. "Because I can still fight, just not the way they expect." The trial of fire and shame. The fire wasn't real, but the pain in their eyes was. The room shook as a blast echoed through the simulation hall. Heat flared, smoke poured from hidden vents, and alien cadets scattered across the battlefield layout. In the observation deck above, officers and instructors watched carefully, noting every move, every weakness. But down below, it wasn't just a test anymore. The simulation was upgraded, extreme mode, and Jace Mora, the paraplegic human, had just been called in. 5 minutes earlier. "Send him in." The voice crackled over the comm. Instructor Hyler blinked. "You're serious. He hasn't trained for this level." "Exactly," the voice replied. "Let's see what he really is." The aliens still think humans are weak. Time to remind them. Hyler hesitated, then turned toward the cadets. Jace Mora, your turn. Everyone turned. Jace, sitting by himself in the corner, looked up slowly. He didn't flinch, didn't ask a question. He adjusted his gloves, checked his wrist pad, and nodded. As he floated toward the simulator doors, someone whispered behind him. This time, he won't last 10 seconds. Vaylari crossed her arms. She wasn't smiling this time. Inside the simulator, the doors hissed closed. The lights dimmed. For a moment, Jace was surrounded by silence. Then all hell broke loose. Explosions shook the floor. Automated drones dropped from the ceiling, firing plasma rounds. Sections of the terrain shifted and split apart. Smoke blinded the view, and red lights flickered across the battlefield. Enemy forces approaching. 30 seconds, the system warned. Jace exhaled slowly. He activated the small device on his arm. A swarm of drones launched from a hidden compartment in his chair, buzzing into the air. Not weapons, scanners. They mapped the area, highlighted weak points, enemy positions, blind zones. Jace's hands moved fast, controlling everything from his wrist pad. He maneuvered through the chaos, not forward, but sideways toward cover, using his floating chair like a stealth glider. An enemy fired. He ducked under the blast. A mine activated. He used a shockwave from his gloves to disable it. In the control room above, instructors leaned forward. He's not fighting like a soldier, one said. He's fighting like a tactician. Meanwhile, outside the simulator, the cadets watched in stunned silence. The screen showed Jace moving like a ghost, never in the same place for more than 2 seconds. He wasn't the strongest, wasn't the fastest, but he knew how to survive. Vaylari watched without speaking. Her golden eyes narrowed. How's he doing this? Someone asked. Must be the drones, another muttered. He's cheating. But even they didn't believe that anymore, because Jace wasn't just surviving, he was winning. 22 minutes later, third round. Anger grows. Vaylari attacked faster now, harder. She wanted to win, wanted to prove something. But Jace wasn't focused on beating her. He was focused on not losing himself. Every move he made was measured. His balance was off. His knees shook. But he moved with purpose, blocked with precision, countered with calm. 5 minutes in, sweat rolled down Vaylari's back. Jace's breathing was heavy. The score was even, and the silence in the crowd had become awe. Final move, breaking point. Vaylari jumped high, aiming for a spinning kick, her signature finisher. But Jace ducked, rolled on the floor, not fast, not elegant, and caught her leg midair. They crashed down together. Dust rose. Then stillness. The sensor chimed. Match complete. Jace had pinned her. Total silence. Then, a slow clap. Then more. Cadets began clapping around the arena. Even the instructors nodded in approval. But Jace didn't smile. He let go of her arm gently and stood up, barely able to stay balanced. His legs sparked slightly. Vaylari stayed on the floor, breathing hard. Then, she laughed. Not mockery, not anger, just release. She sat up and looked at him. You're stronger than I thought. Jace offered a hand. You're not as proud as I thought. She took it. He helped her up. And for the first time, they didn't look like enemies. They looked like equals. That night, they sat side by side under the stars. No crowd, no ranks, no challenges. You could have embarrassed me, she said. That was never the point, he replied. Then what is the point? Jace looked at the sky. I didn't come here to beat anyone. I came here to be better than I was yesterday. She was quiet, then asked, and tomorrow? I'll try again. Vaylari nodded. Then maybe, I'll try too. Enemies become something else. She had once laughed at him in front of everyone. Now she waited for him in silence, just to talk. The academy had changed. Whispers no longer followed Jace like shadows. They had turned into quiet respect, still not loud, still unsure. But no one mocked him now. No one dared. But he didn't walk taller because of it. He still trained alone. Still repaired his drones at night. Still woke before dawn to do push-ups on trembling arms and silent floors. Because the war he fought wasn't over. It was just quieter now. But something else had changed too. Someone had. Valerie. She was no longer just the cold top cadet who stared down anyone who dared look her way. Her steps were still sharp, her blade still fast. But her eyes had softened, especially when they rested on him. That evening, the training hall was empty, lights dimmed low, silence holding the walls like hands. Jace was there, as always, moving slowly through balance drills. His cybernetic legs were upgraded now, still basic, but slightly more flexible. He had modified them himself, staying up late, using spare parts from decommissioned bots. He wobbled, caught himself, tried again. Step, breathe, pause, repeat. Then a sound. Soft footsteps. He turned, saw her.